Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head to the brewery that's on my glass actually. We're going to Kiuchi Brewery, who of course brew the Japanese Hitachino Nest beers, and we've got quite an interesting one to have a look at today. This one is the Japanese Classic Ale. Now this is an IPA that's modelled on the original English IPAs that came across the sea to Japan in the 19th century. It comes in at 7% and it's also aged in cider casks as well. Cider, of course, is a wood, and normally they use this for actually aging sake, so it should be a very interesting and quite unique beer. Since this is a Hitachino Nest beer as well, I'll dedicate this review to one of my long-term subscribers, Scott Bowersock. He loves the Hitachino Nest Red Rice Ale, and he's got a very nice blog where he talks about Japanese beer, and also his wife does some articles about Japanese food as well. So I'll put the link to his blog in the description below. Make sure you check that out. And also a shout out to Koji at Asahiya Beer Shop here in Taishibashi Imaichi in Osaka. He's got a really nice selection of Japanese beers and some other American things as well. So if you've come to Osaka, make sure you check out his beer store. It's pretty awesome. And Koji, of course, can talk to you in English as well, which is a big advantage for me. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other Hitachino Nest beer reviews I've done before. I think this is my 5th one that I'm doing for you now. There's all the usual social media. Make sure you check that out. If you want to see more beer reviews, do subscribe to the channel. And as always, to those of you watching in Japan, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other Japanese beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Hitachino Nest and the Kiuchi Brewery. So these guys are from Naka in Ibaraki Prefecture, which is about 80 miles to the north of Tokyo. And as I mentioned, the Hitachino Nest beers are brewed by the Kiuchi Brewery, which was founded in 1823 by Kiuchi Gihei, whose family was actually collecting rice in the fields as a tax for the Mito Tokugawa family. And the brewery started with the idea of using the remaining rice stalks to actually make sake. Now Kiuchi was a good friend of Fujita Toku, who was actually one of the activists in the revolutionary Tokugawa movement in Japanese politics, and he actually named one of his sakes Kiku Sakari as a respectful gesture to the emperor as well. But Miko Kiuchi inherited the brewery from his elders after the Second World War in 1950, and this was a time, of course, when the Japanese economy grew very rapidly. This is really when Japan became the economic powerhouse that it is today. But the sake industry obviously grew very much during that time due to increasing demand, and the Kiuchi Brewery prided itself in maintaining brewing quality by selecting very local ingredients and of course very good quality ingredients, and using the best processes rather than simply scaling up to meet the demand. But the Hitachino Nest beer branch of the company was actually founded in 1996, and the idea behind this was that actually they wanted to jump on board with the growing beer market that was going on in Japan. And these guys, of course, are recognised for their owl logo that they use. But this brewery has actually grabbed quite a lot of Japanese and international attention because they've won many awards at different world beer competitions. But the brewery is particularly interesting because they combine European brewing techniques with traditional Japanese brewing methods, and this is why you get quite a few unique beers from these guys. So they brew beer, sake, of course, which is a rice wine, and shochu, which is a beverage typically distilled from barley, sweet potatoes, buckwheat, rice, and sometimes also brown sugar, and it's typically around 25% alcohol. But shochu is usually made with sake kasu, which is the byproduct of sake brewing. So you get a lot of shochu in Japan, and also nihonshu, or sake as it's kind of known internationally. But more recently this company has been expanding, and they're actually making wine now these days. They also purchased a bit of land next to the brewery and turned it into a vineyard as well, and they also are the importer of Merlot and Chardonnay vines. They import Merlot and Chardonnay wines from France into Japan, and they also imported the grapevines as well so they can make their own. So as you can see, a very interesting company. They've got a lot of things going on. Their beers are very good, and from what I can gather, their sakes and wines are very good as well. And the Hitachino Nest beers, for those of you watching in Europe and America, this is probably one of the most widely available craft beer companies from Japan. So if you want a taste of Japanese beer, Hitachino Nest is a very, very good place to start. So just to list the other beers you can get from these guys quickly, there's the Lager and the Saison du Japan, which are new at the point of me filming this review, which is June 2016. In their other regular range, they have the Weizen, the Pale Ale, the Amber Ale, the Red Rice Ale, which is a very, very unique beer. I really like that one. There's the Espresso Stout, the Sweet Stout, and the White Ale as well, which is one of their most popular ones. The XH, this guy here, the Japanese Classic Ale, the Ginger Ale, and also the Celebration Ale as well. And they've also got a very cool beer called Nipponia, which is actually brewed with a special type of Japanese barley called Kanago Golden, and it also uses a special strain of Japanese Soriachi Ace hops. So that's a beer that I will review for you while I'm here, but let's actually get on to the tasting of this beer itself. So as I mentioned to you at the start of the video, this one is a 7% IPA. It's hopped with Chinook, which I believe it is an American hop. There's also Peril from Germany and Kent Goldings, which is from England, and it's got a malt base of pale, Munich and crystal malts. And like I mentioned, this beer is brewed to mimic the IPAs that came from England in the 19th century and arrived in Japan. This one's aged in cider casks, and it's normally used for, these are normally used for sake, of course, as well. So let's have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open it up. Pardon me there, swallowed a little bit of air, which wasn't so good. As you can see, it's got the typical Hitachino Nest owl on this one. Of course, they are famous for that. You can see it on my glass as well. That, of course, is on the bottle cap, the standard bottle cap there. And if you look, the top label of this one, you can see some of the really nice old Japanese buildings. There's a museum here in Osaka that actually has a town laid out like these really nice old Japanese buildings. I think those are from, I don't know if they're maybe from the Edo period or exactly when they're from, but the old Japanese architecture is very, very nice. So this one should be nice. You can see on the bottom there, it says there, matured in cider cask as well. And if you're curious about how you say beer in Japan, it says in there on katakana, you can see right here, biru. So yeah, let's get this guy open then, and we'll get on with the tasting here. This should be really nice. So if I can get the top off this, which is always a little bit of pain, and there we are. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get it into the glass. And as you can see, you're getting some really nice aromas off this actually, but as I was going to say, you can see it's a nice bright orangey amber colour, this one. Really rich looking beer actually. So let's set this guy back down, and there we are. As you can see, it looks very, very nice. It's a bright, rich orange amber colour, that one. You can really smell some of the floral and woody aspects coming off this beer. There's a finger and a half of a frothy, slightly beigey coloured head on this one, but mainly a kind of creamy white beigey colour actually, this one. You can see if I put my fingers behind the beer, there is a degree of transparency to it if I hold it back down here. But it looks very, very nice actually. There's some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and quite a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, but overall it looks really, really nice. Some small bubbles visible as well. No sediment in this one, but it looks very, very nice. So let's have a look at the aroma on this one before we get stuck in. It smells really sweet and malty actually on the first intake. So you've got a little bit of a kind of nice caramelly note, some biscuity elements to it as well, sort of biscuity, syrupy, grainy thing going on. There's a little bit of a, you can pick up that woody character from this. The cedar wood, of course, is quite a spicy smelling wood. If you've used it, done it in workshops before, I've smelt it because of my contact with Luthers and classical guitars and things like that. Cedar's a very nice top body wood actually when it comes to classical guitars. Gives you a very nice sound. But on this one, you can smell that cedar sort of piney kind of conifer spice that you get actually in this one. But with the hops, when you sugar it up a little bit more, on top of that you can smell some of the nice floral aspects of the Peril hop. The Peril hop, of course, a German hop, like I said. Chinook has some nice piney resins too. You're picking up a little bit of that from this one as well. But for me, it is actually the malty aspects that are dominating the aroma of this beer. It smells really nice. There's a little bit of earthy character in there, which I'm assuming is coming from the East Kent Goldings. Some grassy hops as well, and a little bit of citrus. You know, it's a big grassy kind of floral, maybe slightly herbal character that's coming out of this thing. As it said, Chinook from America, Peril from Germany, and East Kent Goldings, of course, from England, one of the classic English hops. So a little bit earthy, a little bit herbal, some good bit of floral character in there as well, so everything you would expect from all of those hops. But mainly for me, it's the malt base that's dominating the aroma here. It's nice and caramelly, a bit of biscuit, maybe a bit of bread too, and you can detect that kind of nice, that sort of nice kind of spicy woody character coming out of this one. It smells really, really nice. So let's get stuck into this beer then. So this is the Japanese classic ale from Hitachino Nest, part of the Kiuchi Brewery in Naka, Ibaraki in Japan. Kanpai. That's nice. You know, with IPAs and things like that, you often, with American styles that now dominate the market, of course, they're always big and fruity, but when you go back to some of these more classic style ones like this, you get what the IPA was originally, and that's always very cool to do. And this one, of course, has a little bit of a twist because it's aged in cedar casks as well, so it's got a bit of a Japanese aspect to it, this one as well. But that's really nice. The mouthfeel on this one's perfect. It's got a little bit of that minerally character to it, which you often get from Japan, and there's also a little bit of the nice sweet caramel in there. So the middle of your palate has this bready aspect to the beer. That goes right across the middle of your palate. You can feel the kind of grainy, bready characters just building the base of this beer. On top of that, there's a bit of sweet caramel there, but that fades away quickly. And as you go more into the aftertaste, you've got the grainy, dry character that's just sitting there. And you can pick up this kind of wood spiciness in there that lingers as well, and it mixes very well with the hoppy aspects of the beer as well. It's really, really nicely done actually. This beer, as I said, was rated at 90 on Rate Beer. Wasn't rated so highly within the style. It was down rated about 70 within the style, and I can see it is quite a quirky beer, of course, but when you have Rate Beer, it is an American-dominated site, so they do prefer the American IPAs, of course, to the more English-style ones and the quirkier ones like this. But yeah, this is a really nice beer. I would say if you get the chance to try this one, definitely give it a go. But it does, if you're used to the flavour of sake, you can pick up that little bit of woody character that you get in some sakes. You know, this cedar woody aspect in this one is just sitting in the middle of the palate. It's quite subtle, but you can really, if you know what sake tastes like, you can definitely pick it up in the flavour of this beer. That nice woody, spicy character just goes in well with this kind of grainy breadiness that I was talking about, and a little bit of the caramel too. It's a really nice, interesting flavour. A lot of people, when they think about barrel aging, will think about the Innocent Gun beers back home in Scotland, but this is completely different. It's definitely a different type of wood, and it doesn't have the kind of vanilla notes that you usually get from hardwood like oak casks and things like that. The cedar wood in this one is quite different. It's not vanilla at all. It's more of a spiciness that you're getting out of this one, and slightly resinous, and of course with these hops that are in this beer, that works very, very well. So in the back corners of the palate you're getting a little bit of earthiness. That's the East Kent Goldings coming out, of course, and as you come further forward, it's nice and floral. You can definitely pick up that bit of almost spicy floral character that comes out from the pearl hop. I always found the German pearl hop to be a little bit kind of spicy in that regard. I always think that's a very, very good bittering hop. And then you can also pick up the darker floral aspects that will come from the American Chinook. And around the front curve of the palate, of course, I think there's a little bit of the grassiness in there, and I think that's really the kind of noble aspect of the pearl hop coming out. Of course, German hops always have that nice, smooth, earthy, slightly floral and grassy character to them. There's a bit of citrus. If you go just behind the front curve of the tongue, there's that typical bit of citrus that blends very well with these floral aromatic characters in there. There's a bit of the darker floral aromatic, like I said, but also some of the more noble floral aromatic as well, which is very nice. And the earthiness from the English hop complements well with the noble earthiness too. The whole beer blends together very well, and that earthy character blends nicely with the spicy wood aspects from the cedar wood aging. So overall with this beer, It's not really like an IPA that I've ever tasted before, actually. It's one that's really unique and that you would really have to try for yourself. It's very nicely done. If you like your floral IPAs, you'll enjoy this one. If you enjoy the kind of the more floral aspects, if you like things like the Centennial and the Chinook hop and hops like that, Pearl hop of course as well, Tomahawk, things like that, if you enjoy these kind of hops in your IPAs, this is one that you definitely will enjoy. If you like a little bit of a kind of nice sweet malt base in it as well, you'll also enjoy this beer. There's no other beer that I can think of offhand that is quite like this one. It is quite unique, but if you like the sort of flavours that I'm talking about, you will enjoy this beer. So in terms of the mouthfeel of this one, I'd say this is mid-bodied. The carbonation is quite smooth. It does have a little bit of a kind of creamy feel to the mouth as well, which suits the woody aspect of the flavour. But that's really nice. Definitely a very nicely done beer, actually. It blends together really well. You've got a little bit of sweetness, there's a little bit of dryness to the malt as well from the kind of bready graininess going on. The earthiness is smooth, but there's a good bit of floral, hoppy, dry bitterness. So it does have a little bit of the kind of New World American hop thing into it to make it appeal to drinkers, of course, but it's got that the kind of old world, more malty side to the English pale ale. So it's really interesting, and like I say, the cedar wood thing, which is a sake characteristic, makes this beer very, very interesting. After having tried a few sakes being here in Japan, that's a flavour that you will pick up if you try a few of these. But overall, it's a very, very good beer, and I would recommend that you try this one. It's really, really nice. And Hitachino Nest, of course, very, very rarely disappoint. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Thank you once again for watching my beer reviews, and until the next time, make sure you go and check out some Hitachino Nest beers. Do check out all my social media, and if you've enjoyed the review, subscribe to the channel. There's many more Japanese beer reviews for you coming up, and make sure you go and check out Scott's blog and also Asahiya Beer Shop here in Taishibashi, Imaichi, Osaka. Kanpai.